Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Finland once again, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the latest installment of the Riku box. So first and foremost, a massive shout out and thank you to Riku Sanaxanaho, my Finnish beer mule. It's thanks to him that you guys are getting to enjoy some Finnish reviews here on the channel. He always picks me out some really nice beers, and we're going to be working our way through these over the next little while, but he's responsible for pretty much all the Finnish beer that you see here on Rampant Lion Reviews. So a massive kiitos and kiitos to him. Now, the brewery that we're going to have a look at today is one that has featured on the channel before, albeit as an out and about video, but this is going to be the first time we're doing a sit down review from them, which is quite cool. But the beer itself is a style that I know these guys can do very well. It comes with Riku's recommendation, which is always appreciated and always good in my experience, and it's one of their latest releases and the first in a new series of beers that they're going to do apparently. So I think this is quite an interesting place to begin with them actually. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Espoo, right next to Helsinki, the Finnish capital, and we're going to have a look at my first sit-down beer from Olarin Panimo. So this particular beer is called Misty Bidness. It is number 1 in the series, we should point that out as well. It comes in at 6.9% ABV, and this one is another New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, we had actually been hoping to get a can of the Runaway, which is one of their award-winning beers. I think it was the best Finnish beer of 2020 or 2021. Do tell me about that in the comment section below. But yeah, we tried that when we were actually at the brewery, but unfortunately getting a fresh can of it to review here on the channel wasn't possible at the time that we were putting the box together. But this one, as I say, comes with Riku's recommendation. He knows his stuff. If he tells me something's good, it probably is going to be. So yeah, curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. So let's crack on and see. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Olarin Panimo. Like I said, this is the first time I'm doing a sit-down review from them, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography-based tagging system. Use the search bar, put in your hometown, county, state, whatever. If I've reviewed beers from your area, they will pop up. And remember, you can check out the playlists of beers from different countries as well. You'll find this one in the Finnish playlist, and that will be getting added to quite a little bit over the next wee while. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then and chat a little bit about Olarin Panimo. So, Olarin Panimo, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Espoo, and the company was originally founded back in 2015. So the founders of the brewery are Ville Leino, Nico Isotalo and Topias Walbeck, and the first location they had was in the Pienpanimo district of Espoo, and they were operating a small 500 litre brew kit there. So over the first couple of years they developed new recipes, they tried to get their beers out there a little bit more, and they did manage to grow quite a wee bit. But in 2018 the brewery relocated to Otaniemi in Espoo. It's actually on the Aalto University campus these days, and in this facility they're producing 220,000 to around 250,000 litres of beer per year. The team at the brewery is 12 apparently, and that year when they moved in 2018, Nico decided that he wanted to leave the company. So Tommy Koistinen was hired as the CEO, and he actually has a background in music. He's a music producer and also a rapper, but his artist name is Sete Koponen, which in Finnish is Uncle Koponen. And I do apologise in this video for any bad Finnish pronunciations. The language is just a little bit crazy, which I'm sure you'll know if you've ever encountered it before. But even though the brewery itself is named after the district of Olari, the brewery's never been located there except for the time when it was a home brewing project. But all the original founders, including the current CEO, are originally from Olari, and this area is famous for its kind of underground culture, you know, rap music, skateboarding and graffiti. And these are things that Olarian try to use in their imagery, and you can see that quite clearly on the can. And if you check out my video that I did of the tap room, room, you'll see it very clearly there as well. But Olarin Panimo is well known for their different IPAs. They do both New England's and West Coast's, mainly New England's of course these days. They've got some very good lagers and darker beers, and their most popular beer volume wise apparently is an American lager which is called Marichello, and I think we tried that at the tap room if memory serves me correctly. But their cans are available in supermarkets. Anything under 5.5%, if I remember correctly, doesn't have to be sold in Alco, which is the Finnish monopoly, but they've also got their own shop at the brewery as well, which we showed you in the video. But the other thing to point out about these guys is that Ville Leino is one of the guys behind the craft beer bar Jova, which you'll find, you know, quite close to the central station in Helsinki. This is a tap room where there's about 6 or 7 different breweries involved. I think, you know, there's Maistila, Ekko, Olarin, I forget the other ones that are in there, but yeah, it's a co-owned tap room from lots of different Finnish breweries, and it is definitely worth checking out. But yeah, that's the other interesting thing to say about these guys. And yeah, Riku speaks very, very highly of them. I was impressed with their beers when we tried them before. But if memory serves me correctly, as of November 2022, when we're filming this review, these guys have produced in the region of 100 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt increase over the next little while. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about them for the moment. We do have another 2 beers, I think, from these guys to review going forward, so hopefully you guys will enjoy them. They're definitely more on the malty side of things. So yeah, if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Untappd page to learn more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a look at this beer itself. So like I said to you earlier, this one is called Misty Bidness, 6.9% ABV, the first in this series. The hops in this beer, incidentally, are Laurel, Eldorado and Citra, and this new series, the Misty Bidness series, apparently is like a reimagining of a previous series they did called Hazy Hoods. So yeah, this should be interesting to see. But the hops in this one we do know fairly well. Eldorado is about 12% alpha acid. It's American. That gives you lots of kind of passion fruit, mango and pineapple. Citra, of course, we know very well too. 14% alpha acid. It gives you a lot of mango, but also a good little bit of a lemon, limey, zesty character. And we also have Laurel in this one, which we have had a few times, but I'm not madly familiar with it. So I put my notes for Laurel in the brewery notes as well. So this is an American hop, which is described as being super noble. It gives you between 10 to 12% alpha acid, and it gives you a good kind of lemony, citrusy character with a little bit of dark fruit apparently, and its green component is quite herbal and peppery as well. So we'll need to see how that plays out in this particular beer. But yeah, should be good. So as you can see at the artwork on this one, you can see the sort of graffiti and skateboarding type imagery in this one, which is pretty cool. There you can see the spray can, who's obviously been up to a little bit of mischief there. So that's kind of cool. Plain silver top there with a black pull. And yeah, I actually can't remember what I paid Riku for this particular beer. He just told me how much to send him, and that was that. But yeah, as we said, 6.9% New England Hazy IPA, Misty Bidness number 1. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Very curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. Yeah, I think this is actually the last of the IPAs that we have from the Riku box, and of course when we get the IPAs and the lagers and things, we want to review those pretty early on so that they stay fresh. So this beer is pretty fresh. I think it's only 3 or maybe 4 weeks old, something like that, which is fine. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, it does go together quite nicely, and it pours pretty much as you would expect from a New England IPA. So before the head disappears, we can say safely that this one is poured with a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head, but that is very quickly going to fade away to be a very thin foamy layer. I'll just let you have a wee look at that on the camera before it does fade away totally. So kind of medium sized bubbles on this one, but yeah, nice kind of clear top on this beer with just a little bit of a wispy kind of thing there. But in terms of the colour of this beer, it's poured very, very nicely. I would describe this one as being kind of akin to a mango juice. As you'll know if you've watched the videos before, I do like comparing these beers to different types of fruit juices because that's just what the appearance reminds me of. But yeah, nice kind of bright yellow colour, this one. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on one, type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour beer. For an IPA, it's usually about a 90-minute wort boil, but any barrel aging you do or any adjuncts you put in will affect the colour of the beer as well. But when it comes to IPAs of pretty much any description, you don't normally need to care about that. But yeah, the level of haze on this one, it's kind of about what you'd expect. It's certainly not the soupiest and gloopiest of New Englands that I've come across, but yeah, it kind of has an appropriate level of haze. But remember, the haze in these beers depends on the oat content, wheat content, and to a degree the yeast as well. But yeah, this one has a good little bit of haze to it, but as I say, not the soupiest and gloopiest of beers. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the surface there, but you know, overall it looks pretty much as you would expect from a New England hazy IPA, so nothing overly surprising about that. I think that's all we really need to say about the appearance. We can go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one then. So let's do that. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, this is a very, you can tell this is just a very, very smooth IPA. Like you get some just really lovely tropical notes out of this. You can smell it. I think it's quite oaty leaning in some ways, but it's also got a good little bit of barley malt to it as well. You can certainly get that, and it has a nice kind of, you can certainly smell that kind of herbally floral kind of thing from the laurel as well that we mentioned too. Lovely aroma, I have to say, so it gets a thumbs up from me. As I always say, when it comes to New England IPAs, for me there are 6 elements you should look at. The sort of farmhousey yeasty character, the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those are a bit more prominent in American brewed IPA, New England's in my experience, but you've also got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and then you also have the sweet side of the beer as well when it comes to the malty character. So this one for me, just as first impression, it's got a good bit of barley malt, it's also got some nice oats, and as I say, good little bit of floral character and herbal notes in there, and tropical fruit. But let's just break this beer down a wee bit more and describe the aroma more in depth. So yeah, the aroma of this one, the backbone of the beer, you've got a nice little bit of that fresh white bread crust coming out of the beer. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust. You also have that wee bit of yeah, there's fresh white bread crust in there. You've got a little bit of that how would we say, you get a little touch of Jacob's cream cracker out of this one, but this to me, the aroma strikes me as being a little bit more oily, but yeah, definitely a little bit of fresh white bread crust, the Jacob's cream cracker, wee touch of woodiness to this beer as well, and yeah, the way it goes together, I think is quite nice in that regard. It's actually, the malt base gets sweeter and sweeter the more that I smell of this thing. But I think this is going to be a good beer, I will say that. Yeah, so on top of the kind of the crackery layer that I was talking about, there's a nice little bit of a kind of fresh white bread in there, so you do get a little bit of that fluffy fresh white bread, but it's a wee bit more dense. You can certainly smell the wheat in this beer too, and the wheat is acting as a really kind of, the wheat is acting like a sort of smoothing agent in the beer, which I really like. And yeah, so above that you've got the oats. This is one of these beers where it doesn't really give you anything surprising, but it's all about how the aroma kind of fits together, and I really like it. I really do like how this goes together. So yeah, the white, you've got the white bread in there, a little bit fluffy but still a wee bit kind of crisp and dense. Above that you've got the above that you've got a little bit of the smoother kind of wheaty character, and then you've also got a nice little bit of an oaty creamy vibe in there as well. So yeah, this beer, you can tell it is quite fresh. As I've always said, oats are usually a very good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. The creamier they are, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the slightly older it is. This beer's got a lovely, lovely oaty creaminess to it. It's almost got a wee hint of like a vanilla-y type quality in that sense too, but you have got a good degree of sweetness in this beer as well. I am certainly getting a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy note out of it. And there's also a little bit of the kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this beer has a bit of Golden Promise or maybe even like Maris Otter or something. There's just something in my head saying there might be a wee bit of English Maris Otter malt in this one, just because of the way the biscuity notes in the beer are. But yeah, aroma wise, as I say, the malty side of this one is very nice. On the hoppy side of things, then, so you certainly get a lovely kind of smooth earthiness out of this one. You're getting a little bit of that there. You've got a big herbal quality to it as well. But again, it's very, very smooth, and I'm guessing that is the laurel in this. That's the laurel hop that's giving you that. There's a wee bit of floral character in there, some nice grassy notes, and the green component overall is really quite wet. Actually, that's one thing that I really enjoy about this beer, is that the grassy notes are quite wet. So it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. The green component really suits the way the malt base goes together. And as I say, for me, the aroma of this just kind of hits the spot. It has a really interesting combination of things going on. So on the tropical, or on the fruity side of things, I should say, this one is very, very tropical. So it's got a lovely mix. There's a bit of a juicy passion fruit in there. I'm not getting the kind of stronger, more pungent grapefruit and passion fruit that you can sometimes get from Citra. That's not really coming out in this beer. It's more of a juicy passion fruit. There's a big juicy mango sort of thing going on, but both Citra and Eldorado are going to give you that. There's a wee bit of the kind of, apricot-y papaya sort of thing. But I get quite a lot of pineapple out of this beer, I have to say. I'm actually getting quite a lot. It's mainly mango and pineapple, I think, that are coming out of this particular beer. I'm trying to see if I can get any of the sort of red fruity notes from the laurel, but not, there's maybe a teeny little hint of it at the front of the nose, but it's hard to pick out what fruit it could even be. Like a little touch of blackcurrant or something. So it's kind of unusual to get that, but the rest of the beer, as I say, mango, pineapple, and a wee bit of like apricot and stuff, just underneath. The way that goes together, I think is very, very nice. So like I say, this beer gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah. The fruity side of this one, very juicy, very tropical leaning. I like it. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to ponder over the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one then. So yeah, this is the Misty Bidness number 1, an IPA at 6.9% ABV, New England IPA I should say, from Olarin Panimo in Espoo in Finland. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, kipis. Yeah, that's pretty damn solid, I have to say. This is it's actually, compared to the other New Englands I've had in recent times, this one really, it just goes about things in a different way, and I like that. One of the things, I complain a little bit that there are so many New England IPAs out there these days, but when you jump between breweries and countries in the way that I've been able to do on the channel, you really do notice like little different subtleties between countries, and this for me is just really nice. It feels different to what I've had here in Sweden, and what I've been having, the American ones and English ones and things that we get on the taps in Bishop's Arms. This is very nicely done, I have to say. So big thumbs up to Olarin Panimo for this. Yeah, the first impression that I have of this one is it's really well balanced in terms of how everything kind of pieces together. So I really do like that about it. I think it goes about its business very, very well in that way. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again, I have to say that. But it's really interesting with this one how its aftertaste develops. I think it goes together really nicely. But the more that I let the aftertaste develop in this one, it starts to lean toward that more oaty side of things. So yeah, it goes together very well. Yeah, so this is good. Where do we start with this one then? Middle third of the palate as always. So backbone of the beer, you get a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust that you often get in this. If you go to the front of that middle third of the palate, there is a wee tiny touch of a woody sort of thing. So fresh white bread crust. Above that, there's a little touch of Jacob's cream cracker, which again I really do quite like, but not too much actually. On top of the bread crust, you do get more of a kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of thing, which I think is pretty nice. So yeah, fresh white bread, little touch of cracker, sort of wholemeal, brown bready character in there. On top of that though, you start to get more of a fresh, you do start to get more of a fresh white bread character, and it's kind of layered a little bit, so you get a bit of a lighter, more airy white bread, but then a more dense one on top of it. So that's kind of quite interesting. But the more airy white bread is a little bit sweeter. The more dense white bread is probably coming from the wheat, in fairness, and the wheat really is kind of smoothing out the whole beer in a lot of ways. But above all of that, you've got the nice kind of oaty layer. You can feel if you go right down the middle line of your tongue, you've got a wee bit of that kind of porridgey. You do have a little bit of that more kind of porridgey, oaty, creamy type character. So yeah, the way that that goes together is very, very nice. So yeah, lovely creamy, yeah, as I say, lovely creamy kind of oaty character to this one. And as you move further out from the centre of your palate there, you will start to get a little touch of dryness toward the edge of your palate in that middle third of the tongue there. So yeah, that does go together very, very nicely in this beer, I have to say. Yeah. On top of the oaty layer though, in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel the kind of alcohol in this beer. It's 6.9%, so it's not going to blow the head off you, of course. But in the dead centre of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. So you've got that little circle there, and as you move further out from that, it's a wee bit more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity. So yeah, the way that that goes together is quite nice as well. So the malt base in this beer, it kind of gives you everything that you would want from the style in it. And as I say, it's got quite a bit of oaty creaminess, so you can tell this beer is quite fresh that way. But I like this one. I do like how it goes together. It's just really nice and really drinkable. But definitely, the more that I drink of it, I would say we can say that it's more of an oat leaning New England IPA. So, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you do get a nice little bit of bready. You get a nice little bit of that bready build up in there. It's kind of white bready. Then the base of the beer, is more a kind of fresh. You get more of that kind of bread crusty character. But like I say, it's a little bit more grainy. Grainy, more bitter flavors come out further back on the palate. The sweeter, more the sweeter flavours come out further forward. So you've got a little bit of that grainy bread crust. On top of that, there's a wee bit more of you've got a wee bit of that more grainy bread crusty character, as we say. Then you have the brown bready layer, which feels a little bit taller and again a wee bit more grainy. Then you've got the white bready layer, which again it has that, but these layers are all a little bit taller. Above that, you start to get the wheaty character, and it's a bit more kind of spicy. As I say, the wheat really acts as a kind of smoothing agent in this beer, but on the back third of the palate, it just feels that little bit more kind of spicy, I would say. So yeah, little touch more kind of spicy wheat in there, but again, still quite smooth. And above all of that, you start to get the more airy, yeasty qualities coming out of the beer. So yeah, the more airy, yeasty kind of things. It's like a very light and slightly. It's a very light, wispy white bread. A little bit of honeycomb to it almost. Very slight kind of. Yeah, just a slight woody character as well. So definitely on the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But the malty side of this beer, very nicely done. Onto the hoppy side of things then, and I have to say I do like the hoppy character in this one. I'm maybe need to think about Laurel a little bit more. So when it comes to the hoppy side of this beer, back corners of the palate, lovely smooth earthiness, and as you move further forward along the sides of the palate, it's definitely more kind of herbal. There's a little bit of floral character in there as well, which I think is great. It just has a little bit of that floral aromaticity. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a wee bit lighter and more grassy, as I said. But yeah, the grassy, the floral and grassy notes you get in this one are actually quite wet. The thing you have to remember with IPAs is that there are 3 different types of hoppings. Early edition hopping within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you most of your bitterness. Late edition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, little bit of bitterness, but mainly, mainly flavour and aroma. Then dry hopping is all about the flavour and aroma. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, you can tell with this New England IPA, this is relying mainly on late addition and dry hopping. This one really isn't that bitter at all, to be honest with you. But West Coast IPAs tend to use all 3 of the different types of hoppings. New England IPAs rely mainly on late addition and dry hopping. So yeah, keep that in mind. So with this one, it does, as I say, it does. This one you can really feel the fact that the green component isn't like really deep and dank. That tells you mainly that it's late addition and dry hopping in this one. But the laurel, I think the laurel has probably been used. If there has been an early addition hop in this, I think it's laurel that's been used. It really, the herbal and kind of earthy character that you have in this one, it's almost very slightly woody. I think that really suits the malt base in this beer. So again, this is one of these beers that it just fits together really well. But let's focus on the front third of the palate and the fruity side of things then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a bready build up there. Fresh kind of white bread, I would say for sure. The base of the front third of your palate, there's a little bit of the bread crusty character still there, but again, a smooth white bread, maybe a little bit oaty as well. Above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. So I really do like how that goes together. But on the fruity side of things then, at the back of that front third of your palate, you have a really nice, there's a little touch of that more pungent passion fruit, but then as you move further forward, it mellows out quite a lot, and then you start to get the juicy mango. Underneath the mango though, you're getting some apricot, papaya, these more dry tropical fruit flavours, and as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, it's more, you do get more of a kind of pineapple-y character, and as you move into the front half of the front third of your palate, you get more of the kind of citrusy, zesty qualities from the citra. It's got a little bit of that lemony, limey type quality that hop can sometimes show you. Yeah, I don't really get the kind of red fruity notes in the flavour from the laurel, but I certainly picked up a little bit of the red fruity character in the aroma from that hop. So that's quite an interesting point we need to make about this beer. It certainly has a little bit of, it's got quite an interesting character to it for sure, but it's not quite as, it's certainly not quite as red fruity as I've heard when it comes to the flavour, to be quite honest. But yeah, as I say, the fruity character in this, it really is very nice. It's a tropical, fruity, oaty, and kind of herbal New England IPA, this one, which is quite different from what we've had in many reviews recently. The other thing I would say about this beer is that just behind the very front tip of the tongue, you do get a little touch of a kind of limey character to it, which is quite interesting. But it gets a big thumbs up from me. I've really enjoyed the flavour of this one. I can feel it going to my head a little bit. Must be getting hungry. I need some food, I guess. So yeah, we can leave it at that for the flavour. But let's round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So, mouthfeel wise, I would say this beer, for me, it's kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation in this one is very smooth. The more that I've drank of this beer, I would say that it starts to get more and more oily the more that I drink of it, but at the same time you have that kind of Nordic cleanliness that we've spoken about in many videos before. IBU wise, I think this beer, it's hard to pick out with this one. I don't really find this beer that bitter at all. It's maybe about 20 or 30 IBUs, 30 is standard for the style, but the malt base is nice and smooth. It's got a little bit of graininess, lovely smoothness to it. You do start to get a wee bit of sweetness out of it as well, and as we said earlier, juicy, lots of juicy tropical fruit. I think it does go together very, very well with this one. Yeah, gets a big thumbs up from me, this, and I do look forward to trying more from these guys. I do hope that we can get a can of the Runaway to review for you on the channel at some point in the future, because I've certainly enjoyed this one. It really is quite different to what I've had within this style category over the last little while. So yeah, Olarin Panimo have done a good job of this, and I look forward to trying the more malty beers that I've got from them in the Riku box as well. But I think we can leave it at that for this one. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Olarin Panimo as well, and we will definitely return to these guys at some point very, very soon. As I say, we've got, I think it's a Doppelbock and a Scotch Ale that we're going to review from these guys over the next wee while. But yeah, this one was the Misty Bidness number 1, 6.9% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. Very nicely done. Really enjoyed this one. The Laurel hop really showing its nice noble character in this one, I have to say. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Olarin Panimo as well, and we will be returning to these guys at some point in the very near future. But until the next time, Slanjit Skull, cheers, thank you to Riku once again, Keepis and Kitos. See you in the next review.